Are you sick of living in the city? Want to find a rural town, get a mortgage on some real estate? Who doesn't, right? Today we're looking at great rural towns in Washington state. A few things about rural Washington towns. They rarely have jobs, so you have to bring one or not need one, like most states. A lot of mountain towns are a good distance from any form of healthcare in Washington state, and the weather can be challenging to say the least. The good news about Washington is there's no state income tax, and they have the cheapest utility bills on average in the country: natural gas, water, and especially electricity. And that's from a study that was done in July of 2021. If you haven't watched this series before, what we're doing here is we're looking for that sweet spot. A town that's a decent place to live that isn't too close to any major city, it's easy on the crime rate, it's not 5 hours away from a hospital, or so far out in the sticks that your internet is barely a step up from carrier pigeons. And to be honest, the internet and the healthcare knocked a lot of really nice rural towns off this list. Like I explained in all the other videos of this series, not every state has 10 good rural towns, and I don't want to waste your time with some places that are a bit of a reach just to make it up to 10. Get it? Got it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 6, Tonasket, Washington. Tonasket is a rural Washington town on the Okanagan River. It's about 3 hours northwest of Spokane and about 4.5 hours northeast of Seattle. It looks closer on the map, but it's in the mountains and there's no 4-lane straight highways most of the way. You're going to spend a lot of that trip on winding mountain roads. This is a great place for anyone that likes to do things outdoors. They got the river right there through town, which has fishing. I was watching a guy pull out a bunch of northern pike right there in the river. It's also right next to some great hunting areas, if that's your thing. And they only have a population of 1,000 residents, a little bit over. It's like 1,032. That's the estimate in 2021. And they get a thumbs up for their crime rate. Their crime rate is 32% lower than the national average, which is pretty good. They also get a thumbs up when it comes to healthcare for a couple reasons. One, they have a North Valley Hospital in town, which has an emergency room and all that good stuff, which is, when you're out this far in the sticks, you kind of need an emergency room sometimes. And they're really not too far away from the Canadian border in case you have some really expensive medication you got to drive up there to pick up. That's becoming less and less a thing since a lot of medications now you can have sent from Canada, so that's pretty cool. But if you do need to go up there, British Columbia is like 32 minutes to your north. When it comes to internet, I'm going to give them a faded thumbs up, and that's because they have Spectrum, which offers 1 gig, and they say they only offer it to 40% of the town. They also have Ziply Fiber, which is DSL, that only gets you 100 Mbps, and they only cover about 50% of the town. They have one other company in the area called Okanagan PUD or PUD, whatever they want to call it. They say they offer 100 Mbps. They also offer it to 42% of the town. When it comes to real estate, they get a thumbs up as well because they have some variety. It starts off around $400,000, that's a decent house, and goes up to about $900-something thousand. That usually comes with a couple acres. And you're pretty close to the river in most scenarios. Right now, they only have 3 places for sale, but in the last few months, they've sold like 4 others, and that's their range. From $400,000 for something decent, nice, and livable, all the way up to $900,000 and maybe even over $1 million. But Tonasket is out in the sticks, and if that's what you're looking for, this is a great place to live. Number 5, Dayton, Washington. Tucked away in the rolling hills of southeast Washington, you have the rural town of Dayton. Dayton sits on the Touchy River about 40 minutes east of Walla Walla and about an hour from Kennewick, Washington. If you like fishing, wine, and golf, this is a good place to take a look at, honestly. You can fish on the Touchy River, which flows right through town. They have a 9-hole golf course called the Touchy Valley Golf Course, which is on the west side of town, and most of the wine is going to be down towards Walla Walla, but this whole area of southeastern Washington and northeastern Oregon just has tons of wineries around that area. About 2,400 people call Dayton home, and they get a thumbs up for their crime rate. It's actually 32% lower than the national average, just like the last one on this list. When it comes to healthcare, they get another thumbs up. They got Dayton General Hospital here, which has an ER and all the good stuff you need. Anything they can't offer you, I'm sure you could find in Walla Walla or Kennewick. When it comes to internet, they get a faded thumbs up, sadly. They got 1 gig from Spectrum, but it's only offered to about 5% of the town. CenturyLink offers 100 Mbps to about 90% of the town, and they have a couple other companies like Touchy Valley Television, which offers 100 Mbps, and that apparently goes to 100% of the town. They get a big thumbs up when it comes to real estate because they have a big selection and it's not expensive. I mean, it's not expensive for Washington State. Washington tends to be a little expensive when it comes to real estate. They're not doing terrible here. They have one house right now that looks decent, going for $289,000, but most places you're going to be looking at $375,000 to $425,000 will get you something really nice. You go outside of town, you can start getting some acreage, and that starts off around $800,000, works its way up. I've driven through Dayton a few times. It's a cute little place. I mean, it's been a few years, but small towns rarely change that much in, 4 or 5 years. But it's a nice little place to live, it looks like. Number 4, Gold Bar, Washington. That's right, it's called Gold Bar. Gold Bar is a great rural town not too far outside the Seattle metro area on the Skykomish River. This is a great place to fish for steelhead and salmon. There's a ton of videos on YouTube about it. I got sucked down that YouTube rabbit hole watching a bunch of them. Gold Bar sits about 50 minutes outside of Everett, Washington, and a little over an hour northeast of Seattle. I like this one. It's far enough away from the city, but not too far if you have to go in. You're not looking at an all-day trip. They only have about 2,000 people living here, and they get a thumbs up for their crime rate. It's actually 41% lower than the national average, which is outstanding. When it comes to healthcare, they get a faded thumbs up because there's nothing really in town. You got to go out to Monroe, about 40 minutes away with a full-blown hospital there. Anything they can't handle, Everett or Seattle, I'm sure, can take care of everything. As far as internet goes in Gold Bar, you have Xfinity in 92% of the town offering 1.2 gigs. That's pretty good. They also have Ziply Fibers, DSL. They offer a little over 100 Mbps to about 95% of the town. So you got some options and they're pretty good. Gold Bar gets a thumbs up for their real estate. Now keep in mind it's Washington, so it's going to be a little more expensive than most states. And you're not too far outside the Seattle metro area, so that adds a little extra price onto it. Right now, they have one place for sale that looks nice. It's a little bit small. It's in town. It's going for $525,000. In the last few months, they've sold some that start off around $400,000 and work their way up. I would say you're looking at $400,000 to $550,000 if you want to buy a nice house in Gold Bar. Outside of town, you get some acreage, and they start off around $700,000, work their way up. This is not a bad place to retire or work from home, especially if you have a job in Seattle that you might have to go in for meetings every once in a while. This is a perfect place for the remote worker. But if you got the money and don't mind some cold weather and rainy weather, Gold Bar's a great option. Number 3, Morton, Washington. Morton, Washington sits about 90 minutes south of Tacoma on the Tilton River. Morton has a great logging history, and it's still an ongoing industry in this area, and it plays a big part of the local economy. This is a great part of Washington where you got mountains, woods, creeks everywhere, along with the river, and they also have a lake nearby. Morton has about 1,100 residents as of 2021, and they get a thumbs up for their crime rate. Again, another place with a 32% below the national average crime rate, which is great. Morton also gets a big thumbs up when it comes to healthcare. They have the Arbor Healthcare Morton Hospital in town, emergency room, the whole bit. We've seen this a few times in this series where you have a really big hospital for such a small town. Usually it's kind of covering the whole county. Well, Morton has theirs right in town, so that's a plus. When it comes to real estate, they get a big thumbs up there too. They have 2 homes right now for sale that don't look bad. They actually look really nice. One's going for $425,000, one's going for $440,000. I looked back at what sold earlier this year, and it seems to be right around the $400,000 area is where you're going to start finding nice homes to live in. They do have other real estate outside of town that gets a little pricey up into the $800,000 and $900,000, but in town you're looking a little over $400,000 to $500,000. Morton also gets a big thumbs up when it comes to their internet. Now, they got CenturyLink offering 100 Mbps, and that covers about 96% of the town. They also have another company that I've heard about. It's called Astound Broadband, and they offer 1 gig cable internet to about 86% of the town. They also offer fiber 1 gig. I don't even know why you need fiber if you got cable at 1 gig, but they offer fiber only to about 10% of the town. So yeah, they got you covered when it comes to internet as well. Morton isn't too far north of Mount St. Helens, and if you've never seen this, it's amazing. And if you're ever in the area, I would suggest going to their little visitor thing and check out Mount St. Helens. It's just an awesome thing to see. Number 2, Twisp, Washington. Twisp, Washington is a really cool place. It's like this eccentric artist community, somewhat. I mean, they got normal things. It's not just a bunch of hippies making beaded necklaces and tie-dye shirts. This is a cool place to hang out, especially on the weekends. You don't have to live here. You can go visit Twisp. Twisp is a town in north central Washington which sits at the confluence of the Twisp and Methow rivers, about 3 hours east of Bellingham, Washington. Highway 20 goes right through town, and in my opinion, it's one of the most scenic drives you could take. It's right along the Cascade Mountains. It's amazing. Twisp is a quiet little town of only about 1,000 residents, but they get a big thumbs up for their crime rate. It's actually 56% lower than the national average, which is outstanding. This is also a great place to live if you're not into that much rain. They do get rain, don't get me wrong, but compared to Seattle and the west side of the Cascades, this is pretty good. Now they do get cold and they do get some snow, but it's not raining every single day like it seems it is in Seattle. This is a great community. Now, reluctantly, I gotta give them a faded thumbs up when it comes to healthcare. In town, they got like maybe a family practice, doctor's office, stuff like that, but they don't have anything like a real big clinic or a hospital or anything like that. If you need a hospital, you got about a 45-minute drive to the east to Omak, where you'll find the Mid-Valley Hospital. Not saying that anyone in Twisp is doing bad work when it comes to healthcare. It's just they don't have anything big there. You got to drive. Anything major, you got a long drive. They also get a faded thumbs up when it comes to their internet. It's not the best. They got that Okanagan PUD or PUD, whatever they call it. And they offer 100 Mbps for about 68% of the town. They also have CenturyLink offering 100 Mbps to about 92% of the town. Nothing there is over 100 Mbps, so that kind of sucks. If you're looking for real estate here, it's a little all over the map. But one thing I do like, it starts off around $450,000 and goes on up. But if you're willing to spend about $700,000, $800,000, $900,000, you can get some amazing places with acres and just an incredible log cabin type thing on them, or just a normal house. But they get some pretty good real estate. Right now, they have a few places for sale that start off around $400,000, work their way up to about $700,000. In the last few months, they've sold some really, really nice places that have some acres and stuff. It's a great place to buy land. It's a beautiful place, and there's a ton of stuff to do. You got Lake Chelan not too far away either, which is easily one of my favorite lakes in the country. When you factor that in, the scenery around here, and the rivers that flow right through town, not a bad place to live. All right, before we get to number 1, don't forget, we have another channel called On This Day. There is a link down below, and if you don't know, that's basically we do 5 days a week videos about things that have happened on that specific date through history. Love it if you went over and checked it out. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Colville, Washington. Colville is a northeast Washington town not too far from the Canadian and Idaho borders, with the Colville River flowing just west of downtown. John Work, an agent for the Hudson Bay Company, established Fort Colville near Kettle Falls fur trading site in 1825. This place has been around a while. Colville's almost too big for this list. I usually try and keep it under 5,000 or so, and they've got 4,800 residents living here, but it's still very rural. It's far away from pretty much everything. It's an hour and a half north of Spokane. That's the nearest big city to them, and they got a lot of homes on the outskirts of town and in the hills around it. But this is a great place to live, especially when you consider their crime rate. They get a big thumbs up for their crime rate. It's actually 97% lower than the national average, which is amazing. They also got good healthcare here. They got Providence Mount Carmel Hospital, which has the ER and everything you're going to need. If you can't, like I said, Spokane's just an hour and a half to the south. Colville is great for a lot of different reasons. I mean, if you like golf, they got golf courses here. They got all kinds of outdoor stuff to do, clean air, a gun club, and pretty good real estate prices, especially for Washington State. I mean, right now they only have a couple places for sale in town that are below 600,000. They got one that's like 210,000, a couple that are in the 300,000 area, and then some that are in the 400,000 area. Looking at what they've sold in the last few months, it doesn't look like it's uncommon to find homes here for under 300,000 that are decent and livable. Prices are going up, so we'll see how that pans out. But a couple months ago, in April and March, they had sold some homes for under 300,000. But they have some amazing homes that have been sold and some for sale right now that are on the outskirts of town for over $600,000 that come with some acreage. So they definitely get a thumbs up when it comes to real estate just because they got a big variety and it's usually really nice looking homes. When it comes to internet, they get a thumbs up there too. They've got Spectrum offering 1 gig to a little over 50% of the town. They also have CenturyLink Fiber in about 80% of the town, also offering almost a gig. It says 940 Mbps. That is not bad for a place that's this far out in the sticks. Granted, it's a good-sized town, but it's a little far away from most places. You'd think they wouldn't have the best internet, but they do. They're doing pretty good. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. If you know any small towns in Washington you think I missed, I'd love to hear about it in the comments section. While you're at it, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. All right, everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.